What's up, fellow nerds? I'm your host Dr. McKay and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a breakdown of the Asgard Daniel Jackson class science vessel seen in Stargate SG-1. As usual, I will cover the history and the technical specifications of the ship, but before we get started, if you like the content, please like, comment and subscribe for more. And if you're interested in my bloopers, they'll be at the end of this video. Now with that said, let's go. The history of the Asgard science ship is a short one, as there is only 2 science ships ever shown in the show, across 4 episodes, and with the Asgard's history not being shown in full detail, it's hard to cover the ship's full history. But given the Asgard are mainly a science-oriented race, I can imagine the Asgard having many of this class of ship for space exploration and science research. I'd also like to clear up the name Daniel Jackson. This moniker is the name of Thor's science ship in honor of Daniel Jackson, a human of Earth, and does not refer to the specific class of ship. The ship is most notably referred to as an Asgard science vessel. So with that little detail covered, let's discuss the 2 ships we see in the show. So the first time we see the Asgard science ship is in the episode Fragile Balance. In this episode, we see a rogue Asgard named Loki, and against the ruling of the Asgard High Council, he came to Earth and abducted humans for experimentation to help towards fixing the Asgard's cloning problem. However, on this occasion, Loki abducted Colonel Jack O'Neill, and after a series of events, Loki was caught and Thor then would be called to sort out his mess. It was a great episode. Loki's ship in this episode was the first Asgard science ship we see on screen. The next Asgard science ship we see is the ship in the Season 8 episode New Order Part 1 and 2, where the ship is commanded by Thor.
Commander.
Supreme Commander.
Sorry, I mean Supreme Commander Thor. Thor would rescue Samantha Carter and Teal'c from being ripped apart by a black hole, and shortly after, Thor would later warn the new Asgard homeworld of a replicator attack. He would then go back to Earth and rescue O'Neill from stasis and upload O'Neill's consciousness along with the ancient knowledge into the ship's computer to create the first anti-replicator gun. He would then separate that knowledge and restore O'Neill's mind back to normal. Thor would then go on to utilize the ARG's energy into creating a giant ship weapon that can cover a planet's surface, saving the new Asgard planet from being bug food. The next time we see the ship is in the episode Reckoning Part 1. Where Thor and Samantha Carter tried to use the ARG against replicator-infested gold Huttucks. But after one successful attempt and disabling of that one Huttuck, the replicators adapted to the weapon and another Huttuck attacked Thor's ship and then they fled, ultimately using the ancient weapon at Takara to finish off the replicators. The Asgard science vessel was not shown on screen again, leaving us to want more of the ship. But my guess is the Asgard had many of this class of ship, but it is unknown on when the ship was constructed. But looking at the architecture of the design, my best guess is it was constructed around the time of the O'Neill class battleships, as both ships are more similar to each other than the Beliskner class is, and this would mean the science ship has all the latest Asgard technology like the O'Neill has. So with the history covered, let's get into the ship specifications, starting off with the size. So for the size of the Asgard science vessel, we have a length of 1,000 meters long and a width of 800 meters wide, and a height of around 400 meters to 500 meters high. Here is the ship next to the Beliskner and the O'Neill class for comparison. Here is another image of the ship next to the other races' ships for size comparison between all the other races. So with the size of the science ship covered, let's go over the technical specifications, starting off with the engines. The engines of the science ship are comprised of 3 main engines. Starting off, we have the standard anti-gravity drive that allows the ship to defy inertia and the laws of gravity to be able to float and move in any direction in space without the need for any directional thrusters. The next drive is the sublight drive. This drive works in conjunction with the anti-gravity drive to move the ship in normal space at extreme speeds and allows flight in a planet's atmosphere. And lastly, the hyperdrive, This hyperdrive is of the intergalactic kind, allowing for the incredible speeds across galaxies on par with the O'Neill hyperdrive, only taking mere hours to cross the Milky Way galaxy to the Ida galaxy, making it one of the fastest ships in the Stargate universe, standing next to or just slower than the Asgard O'Neill class. For the hull of the science vessel, no info is given online, but I can guess if the ship is made around the same time of the O'Neill class, then the hull is comprised of naquadah, carbon and trinium, making the hull extremely strong and one of the strongest materials known to the Asgard. And if the ship is as old as the Beliskna class, then the hull is not as strong, being made of lesser materials. Up next, let's talk about shields. So for the shields of the science ship, like with all Asgard ships, they sport a highly advanced energy shield of a bluish colour that create a protective bubble around the ship. These shields are incredibly strong, being in the top 3 of the most powerful shields in Stargate. Like with all Asgard shields, the shield is only really as strong as the power that is supplied into it. So up next, let's cover the power supply. So for the power supply of the science vessel, it's unknown in my research on what actually powers the ship, but one can guess it's powered by neutrino ion generators and possibly a naquadah reactor like the O'Neill class, giving the ship near ZPM levels of power generation. The power is controlled via control stones and crystals and supplies power to all the ship's systems. Up next, let's talk about weapons. So the weapons of the science vessel are limited to heavy ion cannons. These are somewhat similar in power as the O'Neill class cannons, but lack the hyperkinetic energy of said bolt, but are superior to the aging Beliskna class ion cannons. These cannons are capable of destroying a gold Huttok in a few shots, but have no effect against replicator block ships due to the lack of kinetic energy, allowing the blocks to absorb the energy of the bolt and not be damaged by it. The only other weapons we see is on Thor's science ship, which is the anti-replicator energy weapon, or replicator disruptor cannon, which was developed after Jack O'Neill used the ancient knowledge to create the first disruptor weapon. No other weapons have been shown on the Asgard science vessel. So up next, let's talk about the sensors and controls. So for the sensors of the science ship, we have the standard Asgard sensors that can scan the vast amounts of a galaxy, see through enemy shields, and can scan the inside of a ship down to individual life signs and species. But as this is a science vessel, it has a more attuned sensor array capable of precise scans even around a black hole's gravimetric distortions. The sensors are also used in conjunction with the Asgard transporter beam array, allowing for accurate and precise target acquisitions, allowing for precise transportation. Now moving on to the control systems, the ship has a crew of at least one Asgard, which controls the ship via Asgard control stones from any location on the ship, but usually from a specific room, usually the bridge or the room the Asgard is in. The ship even has long-range real-time visual communication systems used in subspace, allowing for the Asgard to communicate in real time across the galaxy. Other systems of the science ship are the Asgard transporter beams, which I mentioned before, a sophisticated cloaking device to hide the ship from all manner of sensors and radar developed by other races, including telescopes, but it does not render the ship invisible to the naked eye. The ship also has an explosive suppression system that prevents any internal explosions or explosive devices from damaging the ship inside. And lastly, the self-destruct system. This is to destroy the ship to prevent it from being captured and its technology stolen. The ship also has the Asgard computer core that holds the Asgard knowledge and the ability to hold and transfer Asgard and human consciousness to and from the computer. Now for the last part of the breakdown, the crew and compartments. So for the crew, as stated before, all Asgard ships only need one Asgard to control the ship, but the internal space of the ship suggests the ship can hold upwards of 500 plus Asgard, and for the compartments, we only see a few rooms in the show. So firstly, there is the bridge. This is where Thor commands his ship from and which we see in the episodes. It can also function as a science lab as shown with O'Neill. Another room we see is the science lab Loki uses on his ship. We also see some internal corridors, but not much else is shown in the show, leaving the ship a bit of a mystery, like all the other Asgard ships. But one can assume the ship has many rooms of various purposes. So to sum up the Asgard science ship, its design is clearly separate from the O'Neill class ship, but still holds to the same aesthetic of Asgard design and keeps with the O'Neill's sleek shape and lighter hull colour palette, compared to that of the Ballista class's darker colour palette. The ship was also a great addition to the Asgard fleet and really helped grow the Asgard on screen. I really wish the ship was explored more in the show, but unfortunately, due to the Asgard ending their existence and destroying all of their ships and technology, the only way we will see this ship again is in flashbacks. So there we go then, my fellow nerds. This was my last breakdown of the Asgard ships. It's been really fun researching these ships and creating this content for you all, and if you have enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment and subscribe on it, and if you haven't already, please go check out my other breakdowns of my Asgard ships and my other Stargate ships and leave your thoughts on those videos. And if you like my bloopers, they're up next. I have been your host, Dr. McKay. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers and goodbye, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. The ship is most notably before he would then go back to Earth and rescue O'Neill from stasis and upload Neil's consciousness along with the ancient first blooper. And if the ship is as old as the Ballista, and if the ship is as old as the Ballista, right? And if the ship and the ship I said and the ship, god dang. And if the ship is as old as the Ballista class, oh my god. And if the ship is as old, so for the shields of the science ship, like with all Asgard ships, they words. Other systems of the science ship are the Asgard transport beams. Beans? They have beans, people. Ah, right. Other systems of the science ship are the Asgard transporter beam. Bean again? I said bean. Beams. Transporter beams. Right. And lastly, the self-destruct system. This is to destroy the ship. The ship also has the... oh my god. I really wish the ship was explored more in the show, like with all of the other Asgard ships. But unfortunately, due to the Asgard ending their existence? Words.